What's up? Welcome to the Prout Brothers. I'm Chris Prout, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about why I got out of the Air Force twice. I know that sounds super clickbaity, but it kind of is. Just let me explain. Really fast, let me just start off with why I joined. My girlfriend at the time, now my wife, and I were getting very serious and wanted to start a life together. At the time, my parents were going through tough times financially, causing me to stay living at home with them to help pay bills and make ends meet. At first, that was temporary, but it went on for a few too many years, and I needed a way to not only get out of the situation without feeling bad for leaving and also getting a good start financially in my adult life. So yeah, after I first joined and got to my first base, I was pretty gung-ho about the Air Force, like most new airmen are. I was really thinking to myself, what if I made a career out of this? What if I did this for 20 years? Since my dad did it, I was thinking, oh, what if I ended up outranking his old rank, which was tech sergeant? What if I made master sergeant and stayed in 20 years? I used to work as hard as I possibly could at work, learning as much as I could, doing as much work as I could, closing as many tickets. I was calm, so I fixed people's computers. I would do as much as I could at work to impress people in front of me, like my leadership. But then when I got off work, it didn't stop there. I would also study my CDCs at the youth center while waiting for practice to start. I would coach a kid's basketball team just because that looks good on an EPR or whatever. I was trying to get BTZ, which is basically a small promotion. And then after that basketball practice, I would pick up my wife from her college courses or whatever that was also on base, and then we were sharing a car. We would drive back home for 40 minutes, and then that was the grind every day for like 10 months or so. I actually worked so hard at work for those first 8 to 10 months. And I'm not saying that I have a problem with hard work. I expected hard work. I've always worked hard. At one point in my life, I was working 2 jobs. I was also going to school. And I worked so much that I eventually had a nervous breakdown, crying in taco shop by myself, eating all-you-can-eat tacos, ending up in the hospital because I didn't even have time to drink water. I was so busy. I don't have a problem with hard work. What I did have a problem with was the way I was treated by leadership. They were all very passive aggressive in the fact that even though I was working hard, they would talk to me and make comments as if I wasn't working hard. No matter how hard I worked, I would always get stupid comments that were usually directed at lazy airmen, but they would also send it my way as well. They would say things like, it's not like you do any real work around here anyway. What are you taking leave for? You need a break from all the breaks you get around here? Don't get me wrong, I understand that some of these might have been jokes, like they might have been kidding. But at the same time, fuck that. Because these are the same people that I'm working so hard to impress. So I really need to know what they think about my work ethic. These remarks mixed with lazy ass peers was the first straw and the first reason why I hated being in the Air Force. The second thing that really twisted my titty was when we got a new NCOIC. An NCOIC, for those who aren't in the Air Force, is basically like a manager, but he's like a middle level manager. He's just the manager of like your shop. He's kind of like a section lead. This guy was a next level idiot, actually dumber than a box of rocks, and had zero backbone. He would tell all of us airmen what to do, or a lot of times what not to do for certain customers. It was supposed to be for every customer, don't do this because this takes too much time and we don't have enough people to do this. But then as soon as we would tell someone that, especially if it was like a commander or a chief, just anyone that outranked him, if we told them, hey man, we're not supposed to do that, they would just want to ask our NCOIC. They wouldn't even complain yet. They're just asking, why don't we do this? He immediately breaks down and acts like he never told us to do that. And completely goes back on his word and acts like he's fucking lost. And that really would piss me off, even when it would happen to other people. I don't want to be led by someone who is basically scared or like always wants to suck up to the people above him. So there was a lot of examples like that in my Air Force career, but I bring up this guy in that instance specifically because the day I decided to get out of the Air Force, he had a lot to do with it. At the time, I was going up for BTZ, which is that promotion that I was talking about. I'd been in the Air Force for about 2 years. It's time for like a lot of my hard work to pay off to get this award. Usually when going for this award, there's a board. So there's 2 types of boards. There's either an interview type board, or there's a package board where they just send up pieces of paper with words on it that says why you deserve it. At first they were supposed to be an interview board, and I was going to be at a disadvantage because I was going to be on leave. So they changed it to a package board, so everyone just had a package. And I was glad about that. And when the NCOIC told me, I was like, yeah, that's awesome, good, because I wasn't going to be here anyways. This should have been zero problems. But instead, something in his mind put it together that I wanted to do that type of board. So he goes and tells his bosses, and they all have a meeting and they figure out a way to move the board and make it work for everyone so that they can do it a day before I go on leave. The problem is I already had a comp day, which is basically a day off given to you because you came in on a day you weren't supposed to come in. I have a comp day that I was already supposed to take, but he told me to take it a day before I go on leave just for his convenience. Now he's telling me I have to come in on that day to do a board that I already wasn't supposed to do. He's the one who moved it to get me to do it. So I told him, you know what? No, I'm good. I don't want to do it. And for people who aren't in the military, or maybe some that are, like, usually you never say no to people above you. But this specific thing is just for promotion, so I don't have to do it, because if you don't want to be promoted, you don't want to be promoted. So basically I declined the board, and he had me explain that, why I don't want to do it. And I just told him, like, dude, like, basically how I was really feeling, which is, turns out, a mistake in the Air Force. And I don't do it, and that day I have that day off, so I'm staying up late with my wife and we're packing and having a good time. So then I am tired in the morning. I don't wake up from the 8 missed calls from my shop, and I get woken up by someone pounding on my door at 9:30 in the morning, and it's actually the most annoying person in my shop. And he tells me that I need to go down to work basically in my full dress blues, which is your formal dress uniform. And he was smirking like a little... I really hate that guy. Anyway, I'm fuming now. I'm getting more mad the whole time I'm driving to work because it's 40 minutes away. When I finally get there, they're not ready for me. I have to wait an hour to talk to them. So now I'm walking into the office and I see my flight chief, which is my NCOIC's boss, and I also see my NCOIC stand next to each other. And I'm just looking at them, and they start asking me questions that they already know the answers to. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, you guys are actually so stupid. And that's when I realized even more so, like, it just confirmed to me that especially enlisted leadership of the Air Force is not always the cream of the crop. It's usually just the people who decided to stay in. So as they're asking me these questions, I'm getting more and more infuriated, and I'm fighting back tears in my eyes because I'm, like, emotional when I get mad. And the flight chief tells me, hey, don't get the wrong idea, like, you're not in trouble. I'm sitting there like, okay. And I reply to him, well, I've just never heard of someone getting called in on their day off by their flight chief in their full dress blues to have a casual conversation about why they didn't want to do BTZ. This could have waited until I got back if I wasn't in trouble. And he said, oh yeah, I guess you kind of have a point there. And looked at me as if to imply, yeah, you're not technically in trouble, but I'm a piece of shit and I'm petty and I don't like you because you said no to us trying to promote you or trying to give you the opportunity to promote. So that conversation basically ended with me expressing to them that I don't even want to be in the Air Force anymore. I don't want any of this. So in the next couple months, I ended up palace chasing, which basically means I get out of active duty and then I join the Reserve Air Force. So that's the first time I get out of the Air Force. And yeah, that is kind of a cop-out because did I really get out of the Air Force? Since I was just joining a different Air Force? Yeah, technically I still got out because the Reserves is a completely different kind of Air Force. I really need a clickbaity title, obviously, because I mean, otherwise no one's gonna click on the video, not even my mom. Anyway, the Reserves felt a lot different. It was a much more relaxed and slower tempo. All of the comm people were pretty incompetent, so it made me look great. Sorry to anyone that might be watching this that I used to work with. You're all still very nice people. Anyways, I got a full-time position with the Reserves, which I guess is actually pretty rare. So I actually got really lucky with timing, and everything really worked out in the job. I liked the people I was working with. I really liked my boss. She actually had a backbone. When she said something, she actually meant it, and she did not go back on her word when someone higher ranking came around. So at this point, I'm sure you're wondering, well then, why'd you get out the second time? Seems like everything was going pretty good. Well, let me explain. In the Reserves, there's a little something different than active duty. I like to call it the dirty dozen. This is when you work 12 days in a row straight. So you work those 5 days, then you have to come in for that weekend of the month, and then you work another 5 days straight. Now, as pleasant as that sounds, it really isn't all it's cracked up to be. The biggest problem with that is at the time I was working a lot with my wife on starting her business. So it really just felt like I was working 2.5 jobs all the time, and I was always exhausted. Then an opportunity arose for me to get out of the reserves, but still do the exact same job as a civilian. Better yet, this also came at my 22-month mark, which was how many months I had to serve in the reserves under a contract. So basically, I just chose not to sign up for another round with the Air Force Reserves. It wasn't necessarily anything my boss or my coworkers did. I mean, hell, I still work there at the same place doing the same job, just not in the same capacity. The only real difference is that I work way less weekends now, and I get way more time off. So now I have more time to grow in my personal passions, such as making videos like this. Even after all the things I hated in my Air Force career, I definitely don't regret it. In fact, if you're in a situation that was anything like mine, I recommend it. The Air Force was a great stepping stone for me in my life, and I'm glad that I did it. I actually still believe if I had different leadership at the time, I probably would still be in. Like, if I actually respected and liked the people that I was working for, I might have had a different experience. And that might be you. You might join and then get that good experience. But at the same time, I'm not going to lie. I am glad that I am out, and I am not going back. The only thing I got to do now is to keep lifting, keep gaming, and I'll see you in the next video.